The iconic Paul McCartney got back live. A once-in-a-lifetime must-see event. Paul McCartney performing a catalogue of music that's formed the soundtracks of our lives. Casey Center, October 14th. Get tickets now at highvtix.com.
A fuel choice that even rivals can agree on? Now that's worth the hype. Pump it up with Unleaded 88.
Time for Hawks on Tap, proudly poured by Bud Light, featuring Andrew Downs and the best Iowa media personalities. Live from Buffalo Wild Wings across Iowa.
And welcome to Hawks on Tap here on Iowa Everywhere. I am Andrew Downs, and this is the best Iowa personality.
That lived about a mile away from this particular Buffalo area.
Yeah, you were my first choice, Todd Brommelkamp. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for doing the show a couple of weeks ago down in Iowa City.
That was wild.
Scott Doctorman.
Fly by the seat of our pants.
Well, I appreciate it. You picked me up, and that was great. We're here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Cedar Rapids on Edgewood Road, and we're going to have a really fun night, a really fun show. We're going to do a 90-minute breakdown of the UMass Minutemen. Position by position, we're going to let you know what to expect.
What are we doing for the other 89 minutes?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. We're not going to get too deep into the UMass game. We'll look ahead a little bit to that. We'll talk, obviously, a lot about what happened last Saturday up in Ames and some big picture stuff with the Iowa Hawkeyes. At some point, David Eichholt from 24/7 Sports will be joining us, and Hawkeye Insider, and we're just going to have a fun night. First of all, hey, cheers. Bud Light. $4 Bud Lights. Can't go wrong with that. Bud Light, we appreciate Bud Light for bringing us out here. They have a lot of really cool stuff going on. We got some giveaways, a ton of koozies. We have a really cool cooler to give away. They're doing their football toss game right behind us. And basically when you do the football toss, Todd, you're entered into a bracket. And at the end, if you win tonight, you move on to the next round. Somebody from Iowa is going to get a free trip to Vegas for the finals of this football toss game with Bud Light and Buffalo Wild Wings. And the winner of that, Bud Light's going to send you to the Super Bowl.
We get to watch the Packers. That's exciting.
No comment.
Nothing?
No comment.
Nothing?
It's rough out here as a Bears fan, Todd.
I let the Lakers comment go early before the show started. Packers looked good last night.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Lucas Van Ness finally coming into his own.
You know, they do a good job of drafting up there in Green Bay.
I don't know what happened with Josh Jackson. That was the one that didn't work out.
That's right.
Always liked his Mike Daniels. I got a big 16 by 20 of Mike Daniels down in the basement with him in his Packers uniform.
I hate the Packers. I hate them.
Let's
talk about the Hawks. Okay, $4 Bud Lights, not just tonight, also tomorrow, all day college football. I mean, you guys know Buffalo Wild Wings is the best place to watch sports. And it's not just this weekend, Todd, all season long. Every football weekend from now through January, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, $4 Bud Light pours at every Buffalo Wild Wings in the state of Iowa. So get out here, get out to your local Buffalo Wild Wings and have some great wings, have some good Bud Light. Okay, before we look ahead, and again, don't worry, we're not going to deep dive the UMass Minutemen. This is going to be a laugher of a game, or at least it better be a laugher of a game for the Hawkeyes.
I got to be honest with you, until about 3 hours ago, I had no idea they were in the MAC.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Somebody mentioned something about the MAC Boom, because it's a night game.
Right.
And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So that's the limit of my knowledge about UMass.
Hey.
Amherst, Massachusetts, MAC conference, and they lost to Bryant.
I was going to say, that's the other thing I know. An 0-2 UMass team, a get-right game for the Hawkeyes.
And I hope so.
I mean, it better be. It has to be. And really, like, it's one of these tough situations early in the season where it's not a lose-lose for the Hawkeyes, but like from a fan perspective, there's an extent to which it is, because no matter how good Iowa looks tomorrow, you're not going to really derive much from that moving into Big Ten play.
AD, it reminds me exactly of the Troy game last year.
Yes.
Where they were expected to win the game, they were expected to win it handily, And they won the game, but they didn't win it handily,
Right.
and it felt like a loss, even though it was a win. This is, I mean, 2 weeks ago, sitting in Iowa City, Scott Document said that Albany was probably the worst team to come to Kinnick State. This UMass team is arguably the worst non-conference team Kirk Ferentz has ever played. And you're right, it's a situation where even if they win 55-0, I don't know whether there's going to be some people that are going to be too happy.
No, and I mean, even if Mark Gronowski looks great and the passing offense comes alive, again, it's going to all be tainted with it was against UMass. What are you going to do Friday night against Rutgers? What are you going to do against Indiana? How are you going to kind of move this thing forward? And so, so there's just not a lot to be gained in this game, and we're not going to deep dive this game very much. We'll kind of look back, though. Todd, you've been around this state for a long time. You've been around this program for a long time and the Cy-Hawk rivalry for a long time. And for the first time ever, Iowa State is the premier football program in the state of Iowa. I mean, it feels like vomit coming out of my mouth to even say that. But I'm not sure how you deny it at this point. They've won 3 of 4. And the last 2 that they've won are maybe the most concerning, Todd, because they have played into Iowa's game, and that was Matt Campbell's issue for his first several years as Iowa State's coaches. Every time they would get into this game, they just play Iowa style, and Iowa for years and years and years, and most teams who try to play Iowa's tempo, Iowa's style, they end up losing. Iowa State ended up losing a lot of those games, but they've played Iowa style these last 2 seasons, and they've come out on top.
Certainly not an original thought, as other people have said, but they have been out Iowa.
Yes.
Iowa has by Iowa State, and credit to Matt Campbell, who I think is a tremendous coach, just the 3rd coach in Iowa State history to spend 10 or more years there at the school. He's culture. I know Iowa fans don't like hearing about culture, and they feel like it's overused at Iowa State. He's done a tremendous job of building that program up and making Iowa State, as you said, not only on par with Iowa, but at this point, I do think that they're a couple steps ahead of the Hawkeyes, and that's problematic.
It is, absolutely, because it's a lot of Hawkeye fans have tried to downplay that rivalry and the importance of that game, but let's be honest, that game means a lot. It doesn't mean anything in Big 10 play or Big 12 play, but that game means a lot to the fan base. It means a lot to the guy sitting next to you in the cubicle and your friend who's a Cyclone fan. And to be on the other side of that rivalry for the first time in 20 years kind of feels bad.
Well, you're looking at a guy who, for 5 years at Iowa as a student, watched 5 consecutive losses to Iowa State. So I was thinking maybe I was part of the jinx.
But even then, that felt like Iowa was down, and Iowa State was like okay. Iowa State had its moments.
Yeah.
But like as you said, and it's a huge credit to Matt Campbell and the way he's built that program, because in Des Moines certainly, like we laughed a lot. We've taken our shots at Matt Campbell and the culture and the kind of way he talks the same about every team. I mean, he's talking up this Arkansas State team.
Who else does that?
Kirk Ferentz, absolutely. And now we're 10 years into the Campbell era, and he has built that culture. He's built the depth in that program to where they can out Iowa, and it's not very fun.
I've said it for a long time back when I had the radio show that these 2 programs share a lot more DNA right now than either fan base probably wants to admit. And he is very Kirk Ferentz. Like this run that Iowa State is on right now kind of reminds me of what Iowa did under Kirk Ferentz from 2002 to 2005. And I know Iowa State after the COVID year, they did have that step back where they had the one bad year, but they're really building something there special. And now you got Oklahoma and Texas that are out of the Big 12. That conference is wide open almost every year. It's great, and they've done a great job of building and trying to keep moving forward. And they've got the upper hand on Iowa right now, and that's another thing that I think sort of hangs over this game this weekend. Is you do come in off of the bad taste in your mouth of losing to Iowa State. So how does Iowa respond? I think it's a bad spot to be UMass normally. Coming off the Iowa State loss, I think you've got some Iowa Iowa players that are going to be looking to take out some revenge.
And that said, with all that praise for Iowa State and its rifle, this can change very quickly, and I expect it will at some point. The amount of money coming into Iowa compared to Iowa State. Iowa State does have a better shot at like a college football playoff berth right now in the Big 12, but this could get lopsided again pretty quickly.
I thought Scott Docterman had a really nice piece of The Athletic last week leading up to that, where he basically asked, who would you rather be right now? Would you rather be Iowa State in the Big 12, where you maybe only have one bid, maybe two in a good year? Or would you rather be Iowa, where more often than not you're going to get 4 teams in the college football playoff? You don't necessarily have to win the Big 10, but you've just got to finish 3rd or 4th. And I think it's a great question, and quite frankly, I don't know the answer to it.
We're here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Cedar Rapids. You know, I'm used to radio like you are, where the resetting is so important. But with podcasting, it's so much less important. Like people are already plugged in. But we are here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Cedar Rapids. This is
Edgewood Road location, off Highway 30, very easy to find.
Yeah, that's right. It was what, an hour and 45 drive for me from Des Moines over here. This is a cool little spot. Okay, let's talk some kind of offensive, maybe like more like big picture things before we bring David Eicholt on, because I know he and I disagree a bit on Mark Gronowski.
Well, you got me in the middle here.
I do.
So that's good.
Yeah, so you're going to have to stop us from going at it. The Mark Gronowski experiment thus far. Now we're 8 quarters, maybe 7 if you consider the cramps against Albany, 7 quarters into the Mark Gronowski experiment. And it's probably my fault, Todd, for expecting more than we've gotten so far. But I did expect more. And so far, and this may not be fair, and it says nothing about him as a person. I think he's a better quarterback than Cade McNamara and Deacon Hill and probably Spencer Petras. But he hasn't been the guy so far that I thought we were getting when we were paying the reported $2 million for him to come in. This guy who had this big career and was kind of a plug-and-play, ready-to-go guy. It hasn't been the case so far.
It is not, and I go back to a couple weeks ago. I was at the Albany game as a spectator, and prior to heading down there, I kind of given my wife a rundown of what to expect this year, and I built him up as, hey, they've got a quarterback this year, and we'll see where that leads. And so far, I mean, the statistics kind of speak for themselves. 21 of 39, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 127 passing yards through 2 games, which I think is, I've seen it floating around on social media, near the bottom or at the bottom of the entire FCS.
Yeah, and like the worst of like a power 4 player through 2 games of like all time. I mean, it seems like the 40s when they invented the
Which, if you go back to Media Day and you listen to what Tim Lester had to say and Kirk Ferentz had to say, there was really a lot of praise and optimism that this was going to be different.
Yes.
It doesn't look any good. And I think that's, if you're an Iowa fan, you're watching this right now, you've got every right to be disgruntled, because they've made all these changes and nothing's changed. And I can't quite put my finger on it. Well, I can, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's kind of the overarching thing right now, I think, and why, it was one loss, Todd. It was one loss to a top 15 Iowa State team at their house in a rivalry game in which you lost on a 54-yard field goal with 2 minutes to play, right?
Yeah.
So that in a vacuum, it seems ridiculous to get real disgruntled about a loss like that early in the season, especially a non-conference game. But it's the big picture. It's the context that all Hawkeye fans have at this point. 5 years now running with an embarrassing output through the passing game on offense. And it's more of the same. It doesn't look different. We were promised different, not just with Mark Gronowski, but also with Tim Lester. We were told that Kirk Ferentz was allowing Tim Lester to take the reins of this offense. And I'm sitting here, and maybe this is what Tim Lester wants. Or maybe he sees his personality and decides this is the best way to win. But this is not, in my opinion, Tim Lester's offense.
I don't know if this is what he wants, if we're being quite honest. And again, it's hard to put your finger on anything other than Kirk Ferentz is the constant here. And the offensive component, you cannot win modern football without, I don't even want to say a dynamic offense, I'll say a functioning offense. And they don't have a functioning offense right now, which is very frustrating, again, if you're a Hawkeye. You get some hot feedback here on
I'm just trying to see if we have any.
We got texts and YouTube posts and everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Todd is very quiet, so let me see if I can bump you up a little bit here.
Nobody has ever accused you of being very quiet. Before I see Josh is watching. Josh, you can look for Josh in it.
Let's see here. Let's see if I can figure this out on the flyer.
You do that, and I'm going to take a good old drink of this $4 Bud Light here. Buffalo Wild Wings. As Andrew said, $4 Bud Lights Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. All throughout the football season.
And that includes tomorrow as the Hawkeyes take on the Minutemen out of UMass. Another late kickoff game. Back-to-back home games under the lights. I think the Hawkeyes have won their last 5 in a row at night at Kinnick.
All right, we figured that out. That's my bad. I had a button pushed incorrectly. Now you're loud and clear.
All right.
Hey.
And I apologize to all of you folks that are watching now. I am now loud and clear.
Hey, so. let's start the whole show. No, I'm just kidding.
They missed a great rundown of the UMass Minutemen. We went very in-depth with UMass football.
You should have heard everything Todd said. It was brilliant. It was amazing. It was
That'd
fantastic.
Be a first. There's a first for everything.
Okay, so the Tim Lester thing, again, it's hard to be told that things are going to look different and then seeing the same thing over and over and over again. And again, it's really hard to believe that game we saw, especially in the first half, was a Tim Lester game, or at least what he wanted it to be coming into this season.
I think, I go back to Media Day and with the discussion about the receivers room, and if you look in the last year, Kirk Ferentz did give him the latitude to completely remake the quarterback room. Now, that quarterback room looks the way that Tim Lester wants it to now. The receiver room looks the way that he wants it to. And in jotting down some notes to try to sound lucid, like I know what I'm talking about here, I compare it to the barbecue. Tim Lester can bring the ingredients. He can bring the food to the barbecue. Kirk Ferentz is still the grill master. He's the one who decides whether the burgers are overcooked or medium rare. And it doesn't matter who brings what to the barbecue as long as the guy in charge of the grill is calling the shots.
So that's where you and I are going to walk kind of a delicate line tonight, Todd, because on one hand, it's hard to not point to Kirk Ferentz as the issue with Iowa. On the other hand, we're about to celebrate his 206th win and becoming the winningest coach in Big Ten history and everything that comes along with that, right? And so it's this weird spot that I think all Iowa fans are in of appreciation and, consternation.
There will be a statue of him or some sort of tribute to him at some point in time. He will get his just deserves after picking up this milestone win. None of that means that you cannot be critical of him and in the last 2, 3, 4, however many years you want to go back. I think that's really important in this day and age, not even just talking about sports, but you can have an appreciation for somebody, but you can still be critical of them. I think that's extremely important. And so, Iowa fans' patience is wearing thin here with him.
It is.
Which is unfortunate because he does a lot of good. They've won a ton of games. He's a great ambassador for the school. But this is not a product that, especially in the era of NIL and donations, and you're asking fans for more and more money, you want to walk away feeling like you got some value for your dollar, right?
Yes. And
like $4 Bud Lights.
Hey,
$4 Buffalo Wild Wings.
Hey, you can't go wrong with that. And when Iowa's offense is boring and the games are not entertaining, but they're winning 10 games and going to a Big Ten championship because they win the Big Ten West and they're competing and even beating, top 5, top 10, top 15, top 25 teams, you kind of swallow that and say, hey, everything's okay. The problem is that same offense now is not nearly as effective in those big games.
Yeah. If it's ugly and they go 10-2 and go to the Rose Bowl, everybody's happy to go to Pasadena until you lose to Stanford.
Hey, look who it is. David Eichel.
Again, I'm in the middle. Whatever happens here is beyond me. You guys talk and I can drink my beer. How about that?
247 Sports, HawkeyeInsider.com. Thank you for coming, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, I was right down the road, so thought, you know what? Let's rock it, AD. Todd? Let's go.
So
got a clash of the Titans tomorrow between two prestigious programs,
we're
right?
Gonna spend 90 minutes breaking down the UMass Minutemen. No, but we were just talking a little bit about Mark Gronowski, and I think you and I are slightly on different sides. I've listened to the Swarmcast. I've listened to you on Washed Up Walk-Ons with Tyler Kluver. You do a great job on those shows, by the way. I guess I'm more willing to put more. I guess I'm willing to put more of the blame on Gronowski than it seems like you are. Now, that's not totally fair, and I get that. Some of it's personnel, some of it's scheme. The injury issue has certainly been there, but I guess as a fan, David, I was expecting more than we've gotten so far, and certainly. You know, it's one thing not to go for it on 4th and 2 when you have a fullback at quarterback, and you know, I mean, all week everybody had said, don't give Rocco Beck the ball with a chance to win. Do not do that, and that's exactly what Iowa did. But then Iowa gets the ball back with 1:50 left, and it's like, okay, the $2 million man, this is why we brought you here, to lead a drive down and to tie or win this game. And it was, I mean, that drive was an absolute debacle.
No, it was. But here's the other part, too. Remember what Joel Klatt said? I mean, he said a lot of truth, I think, during the broadcast. But what happened with 1:52 and Iowa got the ball? Iowa's uncomfortable in this position. You know, they really don't feel good about, you know, their passing game and pushing the ball vertically. I mean, right when Gabe Burkle made a great catch, by the way. I actually thought Cohen Entringer played great
Cedar
on the ball, right?
Local kid, yeah.
Jesus. Wouldn't it be great to have him on the team?
Did you think the game was over when Burkle caught that?
Yeah.
I think every Iowa fan felt the same way. I mean, that's why I wrote my column. It was something along the lines of, like, right when Burkle caught that, you could hear, like, Iowa City all crack Busch Light simultaneously because they know they have to start coping with the fact that the trophy's not going back to Iowa City. Right, so it's also one of those things where I understand why there's blame on Gronowski, because at some point, elite quarterbacks, they make their playmakers better.
Yeah.
But along the same lines, I thought that was Tim Lester's worst called game as Iowa's offensive coordinator. The strategy, everything against Iowa State. But the other part is, I think there's the wide receivers are the biggest issue right now. And all offseason long, what were we repeatedly told? You know what? They're really pushing the room. It's a tough competition. Mm-hmm. I do think losing Reese Vanderzee, they did lose their wide receiver one. Now you lose your tight end one. You lost your running back one. But at some point, somebody has to step up. And that's why tomorrow they have to throw the ball 35 times. And they're not going to,
and they won't.
But
they
should. They won't. I'd love to see Dayton Howard get in there, throw some long shots there. But look at the way Iowa State was defending Iowa. Yeah. They weren't going back more than 10 yards. And I think the longest passing reception this year is, 22 yards?
You brought up Joel Klatt. He said during the broadcast, Iowa is not going to throw the deep ball.
Right.
Iowa State is not concerned about defending the deep ball. It just makes football so much easier for John Haycock or any qualified defensive coordinator to change the game plan when you're not going to go downfield. The one time they did, they had some success.
You know what it reminded me of?
A positive outcome.
Big Ten title. Remember the first play of the fourth quarter, they went to Tavon Smith, touchdown. They went back to him, 6 minutes later? Pass interference, because they knew that they weren't going to be able to stop him. Iowa tried it once, and then they never even tried it again.
And that is, I think, where a lot of the frustration is not only are they not completing passes like that, they're not even attempting passes like that. It looks the exact same as it has under different coordinators, under different quarterbacks. And I get that Kirk Ferentz is a risk-averse coach, and that has won him a lot of games, right?
Yep.
But at some point, there's necessary risk, and it feels like that has gotten out of whack a little bit. Like, he is not even willing to take necessary risk. You have to throw the ball down the field. It may get picked off, but that's a risk you have to take, and especially because, again, Todd, when Iowa was playing this way and winning games, they were never turning the ball over.
Correct.
Right? They had a punter who was all-world. They had a defense who could stop anybody. They don't have the elite defense. They have a very good defense.
Better than I thought.
Yeah,
so far.
But it's not top five, right?
No.
They have a good special teams, but it's not elite.
Yeah.
If you're going to have this type of an offense, you have to be great at everything else in order to win these games.
Absolutely.
Taking a half step back in those other areas means you lose these games.
Well, the other part is you shouldn't have an offense like Iowa in the first place, regardless if you have elite special teams and defense. And that's the issue, right? And again, I think with Iowa, I do think there's some semblance of, Mark Gronowski, he's clearly healthy, and I think that's what everybody should be happy about. He's putting his shoulder into defenders. He can pick up 4 when you're on 3rd and 3.
He's a tough son of a bitch.
He's showcased that repeatedly throughout the early season, but here's where I will criticize Mark. And again, I'm not saying Mark's been perfect. He has to be better, okay? Like, I'm going to keep saying that. He's going through his reads too quickly. The only receiver that's getting constant separation is not even getting looks, and that's Sam Phillips, because if you watch the tape, he is getting space. You know, and you could tell just by his body language, at least when you're up in the press box, he does showcase some frustration. At some point, man, like, you can't blame the guy, right? And the other part is, if you want to stretch the field vertically, what the hell's the harm in throwing it downfield if you throw a pick, but the ball's 45, 50 yards away? That's just like punting a football. And that's where you're right. I mean, at some point, you have to keep a defense honest, and I'll pose this question to both of you. Is Iowa the easiest offense in college football to scout? Maybe not now, but before I would say absolutely. But I'd say they're top 5, top 10 now. Defensive coordinators aren't sweating. No. They're playing island coverage against wide receivers 95% of the game, and that has to be an issue for every head coach, every wide receiver coach, and every offensive coordinator.
They can get away with it. They can stop Iowa's offense. They know exactly what's going to happen, especially in the first quarter, really up until that long drive at the end of the second quarter before the end of the half where Iowa scored. It was so predictable. Run on first down, run on second down, 3rd and 7. Well, now you have to pass. You're going to pass it 4 yards. And I loved your question to Kirk this week too, by the way, David, about, hey, why are these routes short of the sticks? And it pisses him off too. He has no idea. And so, there's part of it that has to go on the players as well. But again, it's just in context for Iowa fans. I just don't see how you have any hope that this is going to look any different, Todd.
I wrote down on my notes here, if you want to be optimistic, we've seen Kirk Ferentz teams get better over the course of the season. And if you want to be pessimistic, we've seen the wheels completely come off seasons when they get off to a start like this. They have to be better. They have to open things up a little bit. And I'm trying to remember, was it last year's bowl game or the bowl game before that? Who was somebody's defensive coordinator? Somebody was at Texas Tech back in 01, the Alamo Bowl, and made the comment that, like, I can go back and look at video of that game, and no, they haven't changed anything.
That's what every offensive coordinator and head coach says, when they're pressed about, what do you expect from this Iowa team? Well, we know what they're going to do. That's always the first sentence out of every head coach and offensive coordinator's mouth. At some point, guys, and Todd, you've said this, Andrew, I know you've said this, like, it has to get to a point where change has to be necessary. And I do think this, though. I do think the wide receivers are better. And from everything I've been told, I think they need to take a page out of Ben McCollum's notebook and learn how to impose their will and be confident in their movements. Because right now, for a lack of a better term, the defensive backs are bitching Iowa's wide receivers right now. Yes. And that's a problem.
We're not on radio. We're good there. See, I'm still the radio guy here. You've been gone long enough. I will say this, and I don't think we're going to see a ton of it tomorrow night because they won't need to do it, but I really did enjoy the slow mesh that the Wake Forest guy has brought to his name escapes me right now, but
Warren Ruggiero.
The slow mesh, and it was, when watching Iowa, it was like they didn't expect that, or they weren't used to seeing that from Iowa. They're used to seeing everything else. I think if you use that in small doses with the talent that Iowa has, they can have some success with that. And that's a tiny wrinkle, but you need more than a tiny wrinkle at this point.
Now, last year, coming out of the Cyhawk game, when Iowa had no success on the goal line, that sparked a change. And it's a change that we don't see very often from Kirk Ferentz teams in the middle of a season. And Brendan Sullivan became the goal line quarterback, right? There's not a Brendan Sullivan. That's not the issue right now. But I wonder if the loss to Iowa State will again spark some sort of a change. And I think that slow mesh, Todd, was something that really, really worked well, David. And I think that's something that hopefully they will implement more and more into this offense.
I think you could see the look on the Iowa State linebackers' faces where they had that back angle on Fox, and you could see just the middle linebacker, and their eyes got so wide. And when you can see a defender's eyes through a helmet, you got something cooking.
That's the spot where Iowa's tendency to do the same thing over and over and over again kind of plays into your favor because you do something different and nobody knows what the hell to do.
And Fox did have a great angle of, you could see Gronowski's eyes, he's looking downfield, and if he's reading the coverage, and you either hand the ball off or you throw, and it worked, and it works, and I want to see more of it, especially if you're an Iowa fan. But again, it's up to the guy in charge to make that call.
I think there's an interesting part of the slow mesh, and something that stood out about Mark's comments when we talked to him about the slow mesh. He said, when I got to Iowa, I had never seen the slow mesh before when they got Ruggiero. But he said, I'm very comfortable in it. I feel confident in it. But he also said that they were looking for the downfield. They were looking to stretch the ball vertically in that slow mesh the 2 times they ran it. I think he throws that pass if Reese Vanderzee's there. I don't know if he has any trust in a receiver right now to go up and get a 50-50 ball downfield. But again, at some point, man, you have to let it fly.
And that's such a major issue is the lack of game-breaking talent at the wide receiver spot. And it's been a decade since we've seen a game-breaking wide receiver.
The last all Big Ten wide receiver Iowa's had was Marvin McNutt the year that he won Big Ten Receiver of the Year.
That's incredible.
And any team, not first, second, not even third. Emir Smith-Marset was all Big Ten as a returner.
That's right.
Never made it as a wide receiver.
And so, David, I've heard you say, Chris Williams has said on several times here on Iowa Everywhere across his shows, that he would like to see Iowa, rather than invest in a quarterback with NIL, invest in other positions.
Well, he's a Cyclone. He's going to say that. I love you, CW. Love you.
And David, you said, hey, go spend whatever you have to spend to get a big-time wide receiver, and you're probably going to have to overpay him.
Oh, easily.
Because other schools, you're not going to come to Iowa if you're only making a couple $100,000 more than you are somewhere where you're actually going to be featured and do well.
They need to put $1 million into a wide receiver, but I'll tell you, even if they do that, if USC offers $700,000, where are you going?
Well, you're
going to USC.
Look, you're talking to the guy who's looking for a job right now. You can go and take the highest.
The eligibility left?
You can take the highest salary, or you can take a little less money, but put yourself in a place where you're going to be successful.
Yes. Yeah, the wide receiver doesn't think they're going to get the ball.
Exactly.
But here's the thing: take the $2 million you're paying Mark Gronowski. You're not going to get a difference maker at quarterback right now at Iowa. Not with this offense. Not with the way they're playing. Would this team look any different, be any different if Hank Brown was the starting quarterback? I don't know that it would. It may be slightly worse,
because they take away the quarterback mobility aspect. Because Hank Brown is not the athlete that Mark Gronowski is.
How about this? This is a better comparison. If Brendan Sullivan was the starting quarterback this year and somehow stayed injury-free all season, right? If Iowa hadn't gone out and recruited over him, because when he came to Iowa, the whole thought was, hey, he's next year's starting quarterback. If he's the starter this year and they take that $2 million and give $1 million to an ex-wide receiver and $500,000 to a cornerback and $500,000 to a linebacker, isn't Iowa a better team?
I'll let you go first, Todd.
That's a loaded question, but yeah, probably.
Yeah, because putting money into a quarterback right now feels like fool's gold. It feels like a fool's errand. You're not getting game-changing performance out of a quarterback in this offense. If you're going to change the offense, absolutely, by all means. If you're going to start throwing the ball, pay the guy who's throwing the ball. If you're paying a guy to hand the ball off and to run an option, then find a guy who can do that for a few $100,000.
Here's the thing that I think a lot of people are having a hard time understanding is this guy was a winner at South Dakota State.
That's what I was told.
And he was winning with, and I don't want to be disparaging because the play at that level has come up a lot further than in the last 20, 25 years.
You know who his tight end was? Tucker Kraft, who just absolutely lit up Washington last night. Anyway,
he won.
Two Packers fans. What did I do to myself
with
here?
less talent. And everybody goes, now he's got a Big Ten offensive line. He's got Big Ten running backs. He's got Big Ten receivers.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say Big Ten receivers.
Well, they have Iowa on their uniform.
True.
Sorry.
Technically, by the letter of the law.
It's just a tough place to be as a Hawkeye fan. And again, we're just searching for answers. We're grasping for anything at this point because, again, they've changed coordinators and supposedly have given him the reins of the offense, although that clearly isn't the case. They've brought in, and here's, if I had told you guys 6 years ago that, hey, NIL is going to become a thing, the transfer portal is going to become a thing, and Kirk Ferentz, of all people, is going to go out and get Michigan's quarterback and pay him a bunch of money and go out and get a $2 million quarterback to replace that guy. We would have all said, there's no way Kirk Ferentz would do this. They've done the things. They've done the things we didn't think they would do, and yet it's still not working.
There's two things I want to really go back to real quick.
Take your time. I'm going to drink.
One, when it comes to would Iowa be a better team, in some respects, yes, but I also don't think it makes a difference from a quarterback perspective because Brendan Sullivan had almost the opposite problem that Mark Gronowski has. Brendan Sullivan would do one read and start running. He would not go through his progressions, and he got crushed by people. The people that were still skeptical about Iowa's quarterback play, they crushed him for it, but they loved his athleticism because they hadn't seen a mobile quarterback in a decade? Mm-hmm. Right? Mark gets through his reads too quickly when he has an offensive line that, for my money, outside that last drive against Iowa State, is protecting him.
Yes.
And even in the running game, they're still opening up holes for them. I still think Iowa is probably one of the best offensive lines in the Big Ten, for what my money's worth. So I think from that standpoint, it gets a little bit iffy. But the other side of it, too, is, and this is a question I did float out on my podcast, and I want to hear from both of you about it. I'm of the opinion that Tim Lester has a portion, I think it's a large portion, but I don't know how big of a portion it is, of his plays that he would like to run, but he does not have the trust in the receivers to go out there and execute that, which is extremely limits the Iowa playbook that they have to run right now.
Which is completely the opposite of what he said at Media Day.
I agree.
Yes,
and that's problematic because what changed? So either you're not telling the truth, and I don't think he was lying, but that's problematic because he was, these guys understand that just because you draw the line here doesn't mean that that's where the ball goes, and he's talking about how they understand to freelance and move around. What the hell has changed in the last 3 weeks?
I think they are pissed about how the passing game has not progressed. I truly do think that Lester is not lying, but they thought that the passing game was going to show up on
You do have a good
Saturdays.
point about the body language. Yes. I mean, especially going back to the Albany game, that ball that was thrown like 4 feet in front, was it Phillips? And
he just sat there like, dude, I can't get any more open than this.
And this is where I've lost hope in this offense because
we're in game 3, by the way.
Exactly right. But here's the thing: is for you, I'm an eternal optimist, guys. Like
I do know that.
I was on the Fran McCaffrey bandwagon like halfway through the Big Ten season this last year, right? Like I give a lot of grace to the coaches and the programs that I care about, and I believe them when they tell me things. And I've believed Kirk Ferentz and Iowa football for a long time now that things are going to look different. And I stayed faithful when they brought in a new offensive coordinator, and I stayed faithful with these different things. And the talk of the wide receiver room and how, hey, that's this year's offensive line group. They're really coming into their own. And yet I sit there every Saturday and it looks the exact same. And so I've basically lost any hope that things are going to be different. So they can say what they want in press conferences. We can hear what we want, during media availability, after games. They're saying the right things, and I appreciate that. But the problem is we don't see it on the field, and it's put up or shut up time, right? Like if you can't do it on the field, it doesn't matter if you think it's slowly improving. It doesn't. And maybe I hope a month from now I sound like an idiot for questioning Mark Gronowski.
Best case scenario.
But I don't think that's going to happen because I've lived through this before. It's the same. It's Groundhog Day
Is
again.
this as frustrated as you've been as an Iowa fan when it comes to the football program?
Well, so here's the thing, no, because at the end of 2014, I was very pissed, and it was like, okay,
so was
that was the one thing, at least in my lifetime, that I could have pointed to, that maybe.
And here's the difference, and let's just get into this right now. Here's the difference: is that I've come to terms with the fact that it's not going to change. Here are the facts. Iowa's offense needs to change if they're going to compete at the highest levels, if they're going to compete for Big Ten championships, if they're going to compete for college football playoff berths. They're 0-10 against their last 10 ranked teams, not top 10 teams. Against the last 10 ranked teams they played, they're 0-10. So if they want to compete at that level, they need to make a change. A change is not going to be made while Kirk Ferentz is the head coach. I now believe that for the first time because I've tried, again, I put my faith in it for years and years, and this was the year. Much like Iowa basketball last season, something had to show me this was heading in the right direction. 2 games in, it's clearly not going to change. So a change has to be made for Iowa to compete at that level. The difference is we're 7 years later in the Kirk Ferentz era, or 10 years later in the Kirk Ferentz era, right? He has done more. He had a 12-0 season. He got us through COVID. He's weathered all these things. Kirk 2.0, all of this stuff.
3.0, 4.0, 5.0.
He's adapted more than anyone in the world would have thought when it comes to the portal and NIL. Because everybody under the sun would have said, hey, if this happens, is Kirk still there? Everybody's laughing and going, absolutely not.
And so where 10, 11 years ago I was probably comfortable calling for Kirk Ferentz's job, I'm no longer comfortable doing that. I've come to the fact that Kirk Ferentz gets to go out when he wants to go out and the way he wants to go out. And I also trust him enough to know that I don't think he's going to let the program, tank and be awful. And I don't think the program will tank and be awful. I don't think the program is awful right now.
It's not.
There's one glaring piece that's awful, and the rest of it's pretty damn good. And it has a very solid foundation. And so, as a fan, and I'm not telling anybody else how to fan, you do this how you want to do it. People are going to call for his job. I'm not going to call for his job.
Yeah, he's
I'm telling you how I'm going to fan and how I'm going to survive the rest of this season and next
$4
season.
Bud Lights at Buffalo Wild Wings, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And
Help.
however long Kirk Ferentz has left in his Iowa tenure, this is how I'm going to get through it. I'm going to appreciate him for what he has done and what he will continue to do, but I can't be as bought in as I have been in the past. I need to step back and look at it as like a big picture thing. And the analogy I've made a couple of times is my fandom of Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers. At the end of his career, he wasn't good enough to win a title. They weren't good enough to win a title unless they moved him. But a decision was made that it was more important for him to go out the way he wanted to go out and stay a Laker than it was to win championships. Yeah. And that's a tough decision to make.
Yeah.
That's a decision nobody wants to make. I feel like Iowa's in a position now where the decision is compete for Big Ten championships or keep Kirk Ferentz as your head coach and let him go out the way he does. I'm over here. I will trade a few losing seasons. I will let Iowa State become the premier program in the state. I'm okay with what's happening right now because Kirk Ferentz has earned that right. But I do then have to change my perspective on how I interact with this team. It can't be. And tomorrow night I'm going to be as emotional as anybody, and every Saturday afternoon I'm going to get pissed off.
That's what being a fan is.
But I'm not going to carry it with me the way I have in the past. I'm not going to hope for change. I'm not going to be as bought in on that level as I have been because I'm tired, guys.
I think the biggest, the thing that I keep going back to is when he brought Brian in as the offensive coordinator, I think there were a lot of fans that were optimistic that, look, this is his son. His son is going to be able to get through to him that he needs to do things differently. The warning signs were everywhere when they actually got worse under Brian Ferentz. Like if his own son cannot get to him or could not get to him, that things need to change. Again, I like Tim Lester. I trust Tim Lester, but it's who's doing the cooking. And it's Kirk Ferentz. And I agree with you, AD. He gets to call his own shot. It's unpopular. Fans don't like hearing that.
No.
But like you said, Kobe Bryant, nobody wants to watch Michael Jordan in a Wizards jersey.
No.
Right? And that's what the Lakers did.
Yeah.
He's a franchise icon.
Yes.
And so you keep him in the Lakers jersey and you live with the results and you hope that you can rebuild. I wrote down, this is really profound here, but I wrote down I got notes
Still
here.
waiting for it.
Get ready. Get ready.
I said, and I had this all the time on the radio. The worry was always that the program would take a step back and fall behind after Kirk. The grass isn't always greener.
Yes.
Look at Purdue, yada, yada, yada.
Nebraska.
They are falling behind right now with him. Mm-hmm. And that is the catch-22.
And I still think there's a
How do I not have a job?
I still think there's a better than average chance, guys, that once Kirk Ferentz leaves, Iowa gets into an awful cycle, much like most teams do, much like we've seen Nebraska. And Iowa fans aren't ready for this because I'm a 42-year-old man and there's been 2 head coaches in my life. I have not lived through an Iowa football coaching search as an adult. I was in high school when Kirk Ferentz was hired, right? We're not ready to have a coach that fails and 3 years later we have to make a change and then hire another coach who fails and 3 years later we have to make a change. But there's a better than average chance that that's where Iowa finds itself.
I think there's a few things here.
And the Tom Davis thing hangs over all this, right?
Yes,
Iowa fans don't want to make
it does.
The basketball program still hasn't gotten back to there.
Well, you know why? With Beth gets there, and she just doesn't have the cloud kind of overlaying her, not being entrenched in what Iowa is. But a couple of things. I want to go back to Mark Gronowski really quick, and then I'll say a couple other things. This would not be an issue, and this is why I really don't blame Mark as much as maybe you. If Kirk had any familiarity of how to coach a damn mobile quarterback, that we would not be seeing this long of a transition period.
Which is
he
why
hasn't had to coach a guy like this since Brad Banks.
I was going to say
frankly,
his greatest quarterback was a mobile quarterback.
I mean, maybe if you want to throw C.J. Beathard was not the athlete that Mark Gronowski is, but C.J. Beathard knew when to escape the pocket, would pick up the tough earned yards, and you couldn't question his heart. probably fair to say. I think Mark Gronowski is
Yeah.
a better athlete from that standpoint. But the other side of it, there's the Bud Light.
Yeah, they brought you the little one.
Hassel,
he has a Bud Light. We're good. We took care of it.
Yeah, Hassel was like, get that son of a bitch a Bud Light.
But the other side, like with everything else too, is the bigger cloud over the program right now, and the reason why and I wrote this again in my post-game column, HawkeyeandCedar.com, by the way, was the fact that they're
60% off right now.
Well, 30% off,
okay,
but it's all good. But they've won 97 games over the last several years, 11th most in the country, 5th most, I think, among power conferences. They aren't even, it's not even the fact they're not beating ranked teams, guys. They're not competing.
No.
Like, the only ranked games that they've really been close in were the bowl games. You have to go back to when Iowa beat Penn State when they were competitive in a regular season one.
That was.
Including the Iowa State game from last week. Iowa's average score in the regular season against a ranked opponent is 32-6.
Jesus.
How'd they get the 6? I don't know. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's called interceptions and Drew Stevens.
Yeah, right.
Right. So again, I think there's going to be such a focus on this Indiana game, and that's going to be a very pivotal point in the program. Assuming they beat Rutgers, by the way, I think if they beat Indiana, they go into the break at 4-1. Again, I know I'm just projecting here.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a problem with Wisconsin. I have zero faith in Wisconsin.
Luke Fickell's done, especially when they get
have you
especially
seen his
when they
buyout?
get beat by Bama tomorrow by 50.
Well, and Billy Edwards, who, by the way, Billy Edwards is not a good quarterback. Like, respect, he's just not that guy, right? There's so many layers with just everything in the Iowa football program, and there truly is no program like Iowa, and I don't think there ever will be again. Like, once Kirk sets this Big Ten record, I don't think it's ever leaving. I think it's going to be there for the next 100 years because I just don't believe there's that kind of, I don't want to say faith.
Yeah.
But I didn't think Lincoln Riley was going to USC from Oklahoma until all this stuff obviously happened after,
world,
right?
Right. And that's where, like, even if Iowa hires the next great coach after Kirk Ferentz, the odds of him staying at Iowa
I do think
low.
that Iowa's perception of how good of a coaching job it is, I think people are going to realize how good of a job it is from this standpoint. Good resources, a very loyal fan base. They won't call for your job if you win 8 to 9 games. Do you know how rare that is in the coaching world? Especially among programs that, like, in a proud fan base that has accomplished a lot. Like, I think what I feel bad about for KF from this standpoint, we all know there's going to be jokes about they beat UMass to set the record. Right, because again, you look at the ranked record over the last 4 years.
It really sucks.
But you can't.
I think it's appropriate. I think it's a very appropriate game for him to set the record.
It's interesting from this standpoint, though, too. Like, they've beaten all the teams they're supposed to beat, but they haven't even competed against the teams they used to be. Teams used to go into Kinnick at night afraid of,
and
I think that's an issue.
That's what Iowa fans hung their hats on.
Yes.
Kinnick was the place where top 15 teams go to die. And that's just not the case anymore. And now you look ahead to the rest of this season, and you have an Oregon team coming in who's just going to run you out of your own house. You have a Penn State team that you used to, again, hang your hat on the fact that not just compete with Penn State, beat Penn State, beat good Penn State teams. We're going to go through some of our favorite Kirk Ferentz wins here in a little bit, and there's a couple of Penn State games down there, including that 2021 game, which was like the last high point of this program. I was at the next game against Purdue, and that was like a goddamn funeral. It's this hard place to be as a Hawkeye fan right now because you appreciate everything Kirk Ferentz has done. You want to see him go out the right way, and yet you feel like you know what's coming every Saturday, and it's just not that entertaining. Anyway.
It's one of those things also, too, and I've said this. I'm going to get some crap on my message board about this. Like, guys, I get paid to cover Iowa, and again, Iowa wins.
He's
but like,
throwing that in your face.
I was just gonna say, you guys get paid.
It's one of those things where it's like I can't imagine spending 10,000, like thousands and thousands of dollars to go and just watch like what you know it to expect. But I will say, couple of years ago, Iowa should have gotten a 30 for 30 because they won games in the most obscure way, and that's never going to be replicated in college football ever again.
Deacon Hill led this team to 10 wins.
I don't need to comment further.
I mean, what the hell? Okay, so, Todd, were you at Iowa at the end of the Hayden Fry era? Or
yeah, my freshman year was '98, so I lived the final year at Hayden's expense, and the Minnesota game, which was just an absolute abomination of a way to go out, and the sad press conference, and so yeah, that was heck of a freshman year.
So as I've laid out, because I just
the first freshman year, right. The second one was Kirk's first year. That one wasn't any better.
No, it was not. That was rough, right? And so that's, as I've laid out kind of my thoughts on Kirk Ferentz and the end of this era, and at least what I assume is going to be the end of this era. Not this year, maybe, who knows, but the coming, at some point, Kirk Ferentz will no longer be Iowa's football coach.
You're right from this standpoint, by the way. He's not going to leave the program in a worse place. Like, I think Kirk's around for another 3 or 4 years.
And so
I really do.
And so here's the thing. Like, I've had a lot of people, as I've laid out my thoughts on Kirk Ferentz, come back at me with, the program's going to be a dumpster fire, right? Like he is going to leave the program in a bad spot. And that may be true. I can't tell the future. But there is a big difference between 2028 and 1998 when it comes to rebuilding a football program, Todd.
Yeah, I mean, you look at when he came in, the cupboard was bare. And there wasn't NIL, and the transfer situation was a lot different than it is. But as you and I were talking about before the show started, everybody else has those same advantages.
They do.
So you're also going up against everybody else who can go into the transfer portal and turn things around. And again, Iowa's in a really precarious spot because they are a lot closer to being Purdue and Illinois than they are to being Ohio State or Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Resource-wise. What we saw, I just saw the booster in Lawrence who wrote a $300 million check to Kansas.
Illinois just got $100 million.
Because
they're naming the stadium after him now.
This is the world in which Iowa operates right now. You've gone from haves and have-nots to haves have a little bit less and have-nots. And they're all Iowa State's in the same boat. They're going to always be a have-less. They're never going to be in the upper echelon. And so you've got to win in the margins. I'm borrowing from Matt Campbell again. I'm sorry, Hawkeye fans.
Which goes
back to this year because they're not elite on special teams and they're not elite on defense, and they sure as hell aren't anywhere close to elite on offense. And that's where some of the issues are here. I don't think you can sit here and guarantee that the program isn't in worse shape when Kirk leaves. I mean, we don't know what the future holds.
We don't.
Sure.
Especially, you got Ohio State saying they want more money from the Big Ten now.
Yeah.
What if that ultimately comes to fruition and changes the payout structure? This is an ever-changing world, and it is tough to be a college football fan right now. Not just a Hawkeye fan, but a college football fan, because you just don't know what the future holds. You're the eternal optimist. I'm more of a pessimistic person, but...
I'm just here.
And you're just here, but as we've established, he does have a $4 Bud Light.
I just get to the point where I just understand I'm probably going to piss off everybody to some extent, and I'm okay with that, you know. I always
don't be afraid to upset people. Tell them the truth.
No, I've always told AD this about when I first got to Iowa back in 2018, and by the way, I my 10th year of covering college sports, which is insane to me, but I came from Nebraska. And what do you think happened when I told all the Nebraska people I'm leaving to go to Iowa? Oh, you're a turncoat. I was getting all the insults in the book. What do you think all the Iowa people said? Oh, we don't need a Husker coming to cover our team in our program. And I'm like, all right, well, everybody hates me. We start from the bottom level, and just come to embrace it. We're good.
Do you get a paycheck every 2 weeks?
I'm okay.
Then you're in better shape than I am.
But Todd, I do think, I kind of offhandedly mentioned, but
I love you, Todd.
The Tom Davis-ness of all of this.
You're showing your age here.
Because
there's a generation of fans that aren't going to understand that. But I do. I know what you're getting at here. There's that cloud over. They pushed a good guy.
Yes.
Who was a good coach.
Yes, with sustained success. Maybe not the top level.
And I'm going to. I can't believe that I'm saying this. Maybe things were a little bit different for Steve Alford if the Pierre Pierce situation doesn't happen.
Yeah, that was rough.
because that's really what sent. That's where the fan base started to erode and everything.
You're exactly right.
But hey, I can't believe that.
And then the Licklider hire was just awful.
Now I will say this: coaches were not beating down the door to take the Iowa job.
No.
They were lucky to get a guy that was National Coach of the Year.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
And then they were not so lucky 3 years later.
That was rough. And then now the problem with the basketball program is nothing matters until they get to a Sweet 16. Nothing matters.
Well, and here's the parallel to football. Iowa basketball went 25 years wandering through the desert just to get back to where the program was when they got rid of Tom Davis. What happens, you get rid of Kirk Ferentz here and you make one or two bad hires. And again, I go back to Purdue, which went from Joe Tiller to Danny Hope to Darrell Hazel to, they're on their second coach now because the other guy got fired. I couldn't even tell you who the coach at Purdue is right now. It's kind of sad. We got another $4 Bud Light. I'm not going to be able to tell you much anything else after this. But that's the risk that you run. You make one bad hire and you follow it with another bad hire, and all of a sudden you're irrelevant. And the one thing that you can't be in this era is irrelevant.
I think the one thing also, too, that Iowa fans can hang their hat on is Beth Goetz has done basically everything right so far. So whenever she's called upon to make the next football coach, you don't think that she has 5 names in the top left drawer that she feels confident enough to say, hey, I'm going to go interview that person or gauge the interest,
They may not necessarily be from within the program, and I think there's going to be
Seth Wallace and LeVar Woods will probably get interviews, and they should.
But you should look at everybody. This is I will grant you this is going to be a much more desirable job when Kirk leaves than it was when Hayden left. Look at that.
Yes.
I love Chuck Long, but Chuck Long, the Bobby Stoops, that was a dream, and that got ruined by Oklahoma. Terry Allen, the list was not very good to begin with.
No.
And that's why they wound up with Kirk Ferentz, and then everything wound up working out. Maybe it happens again. But I agree with you. I trust Beth Goetz.
Yeah.
She came in and she was still wearing the interim tag, right?
Yes,
when she made the move to
get rid of Brian.
Push Brian Ferentz out. That right there told me everything that I need to know about putting my trust in her to run an athletic department.
Well, the other part, too, is I got crap for this, and people still debate it. I thought the smartest thing she could have possibly done was make the in-season announcement that he was not coming back, but allowed him to finish.
Yeah.
I know it probably pissed off Kirk. I know it probably pissed off the players. It probably pissed off the
almost even more because,
but that's exactly. And that was the
she
whole
was
thing.
Willing to piss off Kirk.
Because again, with all due respect to Gary Barta, Kirk Ferentz ran the athletic department.
Yes.
Like, can we all agree on that? Like, without question.
Any coach that's at a school for more than 10 years runs the athletic department.
So Beth Goetz came in here. Like, from my standpoint, she gets an A+ in everything she's done. I think she's kicked ass. I think she's taken names. And again, whenever Kirk Ferentz decides to call it quits, she has 3 people that she'll speed dial to try to get an interview with. She'll probably interview Seth Wallace. She'll probably interview LeVar Woods.
Yep. And
she's going to go after a current Power 4 head coach.
As well she should.
And I think Iowa, with the Big Ten and everything that Iowa has in its back pocket, you have to get the right fit, obviously. But I'm of the belief that Iowa is anywhere from 13 to 17th best job in America.
Not enough $4 Bud Lights in the world for Dion.
13th to 17th best job in America?
It is college, yes.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't want to? You brought it up. Who wouldn't want to work at a place where you can win 8 games and not feel pressure to?
Well, again, it has to be the right fit because like Iowa's not going to try to hire somebody to flip it for 2 years and then go take off.
We talked about Wisconsin a little bit.
Yes.
They forfeited their entire identity.
Yes,
and it's stupid, and it's backfired on them.
Did you guys think it was a dumb? I mean, I know we're not getting on this road, but I thought it was a stupid hire from the beginning based on everything because Iowa was striving to be Wisconsin.
It scared the hell out of me because I was like, hey, they're moving away from this style of football. They're moving into the current generation of football. They went out and got a guy who, by all accounts, seemed like a fantastic head coach, like the guy to take their program to another level. You're right. They forfeited all their identity, and it's backfired thus far.
If you've got an identity and it works for you, figure out how to keep it. And it doesn't necessarily mean you can't modernize it, but they strayed so far from Wisconsin football that they're in trouble now.
6:30 tomorrow night, Iowa takes on the UMass Minutemen, a terrible football team.
Awful.
It might be worse than Albany.
I think it probably is.
Give up 300 passing yards to Bryant.
Will Iowa beat them worse than they beat Albany? Can this offense blow out a bad team? I went back and looked at the most lopsided games of the Kirk Ferentz era.
I'm glad you did, because I've got a little factoid for you.
Oh,
so I'm going to let you do this, and
All
then
right.
I'm going to come in.
All the way back to 2003, Iowa beat Buffalo 56-7.
Okay.
2005, Ball State 56-0. 2008, I somehow forgot this happened. 55-0 Minnesota.
Yeah, Iowa ran for like 5 scores that game.
That's delicious. That's amazing.
Is that at Minnesota?
I believe so, and the only way it would have been better is if P.J. Fleck had been coaching Minnesota back then.
No invalid signals there, though, right?
No. 2013 Western Michigan 59-3. 2015 North Texas 62-16, and then the 2018 game against Illinois 63-0. You'll notice it kind of stops at that point. There hasn't been a major. I mean, like, these are major lopsided blowout victories, but that's what you should expect as a team the caliber of Iowa against a team the caliber of UMass. I don't know that this offense can put up that kind of a production, put up those kinds of points against anybody.
You're going to need some defense to help and some special
It'd
teams
be nice
there.
to get a goddamn turnover.
So I'll ask you this. Out of all of those games, whether we 6 seasons we're looking at right there, 5 of those 6 seasons have something in common. Do you know what it is?
What were the years?
Iowa lost to Iowa State.
Give him the years.
Okay, 2003, 5, 8, 13, 15, 18.
There's
No,
one.
that's not true, because they beat Iowa State in both 15 and 18.
And in 03 also.
And in 03.
1 year doesn't count.
Ooh, what's the
I was going to
common?
say win at least 8 games.
That's most years.
2003, they were 10-3.
Okay.
Outback Bowl. 2005,
played
7
the Outback
and
Bowl?
5 Outback Bowl. 2008, 9
Oh
and
my
4 Outback Bowl.
Yeah.
2013, 8 and 5 Outback Bowl. The outlier is 15. They went to the Rose Bowl, and then in 18 they were 9 and 4, and they went to the Outback Bowl.
I wish they had gone to the Outback Bowl in 2015. Probably would have fared better.
To be fair, nobody in the country was stopping Christian McCaffrey after I think he got robbed of the Heisman.
Good Lord. The Outback Bowl doesn't exist
what a
anymore,
poll
right?
by
It's
you.
the ReliaQuest?
I went down ReliaQuest Bowl, which I think is an internet service provider in Tampa. But
maybe
you've
Hawks,
been to Tampa; it's not the worst place to go.
maybe they win 60-0 tomorrow night.
That bowl game is the Iowa football of bowl games because nothing ever changes. You go, the hotel for the media is the same.
Yep.
The itinerary is the same. They do
The
all
host
the same
in
stuff.
the media room's the same for like 30 years.
The bloomin' onion and the coconut shrimp.
They're out. They're out.
Yeah,
I miss Mark Morehouse's profile picture. We had the selfie with the bloomin' onion.
I miss Morehouse.
I miss Morehouse.
All right, so what do we want to see tomorrow? It'd be nice to see,
A shutout.
as I just said, it'd be nice to see some turnovers. 4 games in a row now, Iowa hasn't
How about a sack?
Forced the turnover. How about a goddamn
They didn't get a
sack?
sack against Iowa State.
They had one. They had one, didn't they?
No. And this is a good defensive line, and it's a good defense. We should talk about some of the positive things.
I was going to say.
And the defense is a positive, and I think better than many people thought coming in.
Especially up front.
It was, yes, up front.
TJ Hall.
TJ Hall has looked good. Deshaun Lee was, pretty good. That Rocco Becht is such an accurate quarterback, and that throw he made on their second drive to Eskildsen, or however you pronounce that name, that's a throw. That's more of a play made than a play not made by the defense, I think.
He's going to be in the NFL for at least a dozen years, and I'm not saying start, but he's going to be on an NFL roster as a backup. Like, I think he is a top 6 quarterback in college football.
The linebackers are still coming in their own. They're still figuring it out, but I think that they've got potential there.
Carson Shires
to try to replace those guys.
That's the thing.
Jay Higgins.
See,
and all that.
And again, this is one of the areas where, as Hawkeye fans, we become spoiled because you go from Jack Campbell to Jay Higgins, and
and you go down the list since in the Ferentz era.
And that is, I think, one of the issues right now that Iowa fans are having is there's nobody on this team on either side of the ball or on special teams that you can point to right now and say, there's the best player. There's the standout guy. That's the guy who's going to make a difference in this game. There is no Jay Higgins. There is no Jack Campbell.
And one of the things that I think kind of gets lost in all of this is that, and it's not just Iowa, but they benefited greatly from those COVID years.
Yes.
They got Nick Jackson, for a 6th year of eligibility. They had Higgins come back.
Yes.
We're finally aging out of that, and it's going to go back to a little bit more normal 4 or 5 years, although you're going to be at 3 schools or 4 schools in those 4 or 5.
Right.
But defensively right now, they're 12th nationally, they're 16th nationally against the run, and they're a top 30 scoring defense. If that gives way and the offense doesn't get better and the special teams doesn't get any better, it's going to be a tough Big Ten season.
Especially with their schedule. I mean, there's some pass-heavy offense. I mean, look what
Indiana's 52-0 at
by the
this
way,
moment
Jesus Christ.
against
By the way,
Indiana
one
State.
wide receiver has 4 touchdowns already.
I didn't need
Omar
to see
Cooper.
that. God
That's
damn
a
it.
career
I was not
at
looking.
Iowa. Guy's had an Iowa career in one game. 4 touchdowns.
One of the big problems with losing the Cyhawk game and then going into a game like UMass and then having Rutgers as your first Big Ten game is like, as a fan, you have no opportunity to feel a lot better about your team for several weeks. Because
and there's no middle ground because they go from Rutgers right to Indiana.
Yes. And so you're going to have a ranked Indiana team coming in, and that's going to be the next time you can really feel confident or good about this team is if they beat a good Indiana team.
And I got to go back to the offense for 1 second, and we can actually talk about something positive because we have been, and again, rightfully so, right? We got to call it the way we see it.
Yes.
I wrote this in my stats this week when I was looking over some stuff. Iowa has 2 touchdowns from its tight ends since November 19th, 2023, both of which was Addison Ostrenga. Eric All had more touchdowns in 5 games than anybody has had in a year and a half.
That's a name I haven't thought about in a while.
So even with as bad as Iowa offenses have been, what have they had to hang their hat on?
Yeah.
The tight ends.
To quote Ron Burgundy, I don't believe you. That's an amazing statistic.
That is.
Because the tight ends have helped cover up the wide receiver deficiency.
Yes.
Because they at least have had success throwing the ball to the tight ends.
This is where...
And they're elite. I mean, like, look at George Kittle, Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, you had an Iowa defensive end make the NFL as a tight end. Right? Look at Parker Hesse.
This is where a lot of Iowa's success over the last 8 years was kind of built on pillars of sand, right? Where it's like, the offense sucks, but Torrey Taylor punts it to the 2, Cooper DeJean downs it, Jay Higgins makes a stop, you get a safety, and hey, everything's good. You have a tight end who makes great plays, right? And as soon as a couple of those pieces fall apart, the whole thing collapses.
You know, Caden Weechen's had a tough year so far.
His worst game.
Yeah. They need to be elite on at least one of the 2 other facets. Offense is what it is, but they either need to be elite defensively or elite on special teams, and then be good to very good in that third one to make up for the offense. And right now, they have not been elite on special teams, and the defense has been good, very good, but they're not elite yet either.
No.
And that's going to be with, again, as David mentioned, the schedule this year is brutal. They benefit from having those teams coming to Kinnick, but they're still bringing talent. They're still bringing talent with them.
So here's the things we've kind of talked about. We want to see a turnover or 2 tomorrow from the
More
defense.
slow mesh.
More slow mesh.
That's what I want to see.
35 passes is what David put the
They're
number
not
at.
going to get it, but I'd like to see it.
I mean,
if you're trying to polish out the passing game, no mercy. Again, I said in my column, I said already, no mercy in this dojo.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see Iowa get up by 30 and start running the football. Iron out what you need to iron out before you go New Jersey. Throw the ball 40 damn times if you have to.
If Seth Anderson isn't the guy, then move on to somebody else. Let's see Dayton Howard.
KJ Parker.
Yes, right.
This is the opportunity game for anybody who's second, third, fourth on the depth chart, because they should be up 35-0, 42-0. So they should get backups in there. This is their opportunity to be on the field and show the coaching staff what they can do.
To piggyback off Todd, if you want to make the Relay Quest Bowl, this is the time you prove that you can make the Relay Quest Bowl.
This is when you have to do it. You mentioned shutout. Let's see a shutout, right? Let's see this defense.
This UMass team is so bad they have no business finding the end zone against a Big Ten. Look at elite Big Ten teams shut out teams like UMass.
Where's India? The Indiana game's on that one.
Right. What,
I mean,
52-0.
Well, they don't turn off the jet. I mean, Minnesota's 66-0, and they had to call the game short 6 minutes to go because of weather.
You got some coaches in the Big Ten right now, Brett Bielema and Signetti at Indiana. They're not going to call off the dogs on anybody.
All right, I've been hard on Kirk Ferentz. We've got a few minutes left here at Buffalo Wild Wings. We're in Cedar Rapids. Todd Brommelkamp, David Eichel, Andrew Downs, Iowa everywhere. Thank you so much. $4 Bud Lights, not just tonight, tomorrow as well. All of the Buffalo Wild Wings in Iowa, and not just this weekend, every football weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. $4 Bud Lights, do it. We've got people playing football toss. We have all night. Somebody's going to the semifinals here in Iowa. The winner of that's going to Vegas, and
to
the winner
see the
of that's
Packers in the Super Bowl.
The winner of that's going to the Super Bowl.
He won't say it, but I will.
Parsons, baby.
I really did not think this through when I invited you both to be here. I guess my thought was Washington was going to beat the Packers last night, and you guys would kind of be, down with stuff.
You're already 6 feet under. I don't need to bury you anymore.
It's funny. My two favorite teams, the Bears and the Hawkeyes, can't find a goddamn quarterback. The Cyclones find the best quarterback in the Big 12 in a pile of crap after their starting quarterback gets
There's
kicked
a
off
special
because
layer of
gambling.
hell specifically for you guys when it comes to liking points.
You guys go from
When's the
Favre
NBA season
to
start?
Rodgers to
I don't think the
Love.
Lakers are going to be that great this year either.
It's really tough.
I'm going to just slam this thing. Hey,
Oh, you're talking about a guy
Michael
who's
Parsons, baby.
Ben McCollum, it's all riding on you, buddy. Ben McCollum.
But going back to it, I didn't get to watch last night's game because it was on Amazon, but I watched the replay before I came over here on NFL Network. And with the defensive pressure that Green Bay is, you go from Iowa not getting any sacks last week to watching what Green Bay, they were rushing 4 guys sometimes, and they neutralized a guy like Jaden Daniels. So pressure.
You know a guy who's
going
to get a lot of money based on the way he plays this year? It's Lucas Van Ness.
Yeah.
There's no bigger player that has a more opportunity than him.
The pride of Barrington, Illinois, Lucas Van Ness.
By the way,
that is on my Christmas list. I want a Lucas Van Ness Packers jersey.
Get that or a lacrosse jersey. He was a top 10 lacrosse player coming out of high school.
Really?
Then he added 55 pounds. Sean Bach, 24/7 source. By the way, Sean was 7 months old when Kirk Ferentz.
30% off subscription right now.
There you go. Sean Bach was 7 months old when Kirk Ferentz got hired at Iowa.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, again, these are some of the big picture things that I've been talking about that we need to appreciate as Hawkeye fans is the longevity, the stability, and without sounding like too corny or too cheesy, and there have been some there have been some blips on the radar along the way. There have been some issues.
It's not been perfect.
It has not been perfect, but for the most part, I've been proud to be an Iowa Hawkeye fan. I've been proud that Kirk Ferentz has been our head coach. He's a good man. He has recruited and led good players for the most part. Again, it hasn't been all perfect, but for the most part, for the amount of time he's been here and what he has done, the sustained success, it really is an incredible, remarkable thing, and it's something that I hope doesn't get lost in some of the consternation that fans have right now. I hope it doesn't get lost in whatever happens in the rest of this season or the rest of the Kirk Ferentz era. And tomorrow night, we are going to celebrate Kirk Ferentz's 206th win, the most wins by any coach in Big Ten history. That's a ridiculous accomplishment for an Iowa football head coach.
So 2 quick things. Todd wants a Lucas Van Ness jersey after I yelled on the driver. Micah Parsons got a sack.
Isn't that what the OnlyFans people do? They get the wish. They give the people the wish list, and then you send them to
What's your OnlyFans account?
It's platinum level.
How do you know that? I don't even know that.
Oh, I don't know. I'm talking shit.
Okay, wait, we're talking about 206.
No, but 206. I say yelled when Micah Parsons. Oh, thank you. When Micah Parsons got his sack, I was on that drive and I yelled, "If he gets a sack, I'm gonna go buy a jersey." I was a little bit intoxicated. He got the sack. I bought it right away. Number 2, when it comes to Kirk Ferentz in 206, when he was done at Iowa, he's going to be viewed much more favorably historically.
Yes.
5 years later after he retires than the day he retires.
Absolutely.
Because they'll get out of everything and they'll be able to just take in a full perspective and actually analyze every detail of his career. Because you mentioned it, when you were off the Kirk Ferentz bandwagon in 2014, I mean, I remember reading a lot of the backlash to him and rightful criticism. Everybody was off on him and he went back and had 12-0 season.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that was
He's
a lot of the talk.
He's a good football coach, and he's a great man at the end of the day.
A lot of the talk coming into this Cyhawk game was, hey, who would you rather have coaching your team when their backs are against the wall? Because Kirk Ferentz has come out in a good, positive position in that situation time and time again.
Look at the guys that he has passed or will pass tomorrow after they beat UMass. These guys are, with the exception of Amos Alonzo Stagg, these guys are first name. You're talking about share level thing.
Yes.
Woody.
Yes.
Everybody knows who that is. Bo, Joe, Hayden. Those are the guys that he has passed. Those are legendary Hall of Fame football coaches. And I know they changed the Hall of Fame eligibility recently, and I think that'll help Kirk out a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's a Hall of Fame coach, and
Absolutely.
they will build
Absolutely.
a statue of him, and that statue will probably be across from the Children's Hospital instead of across from Kinnick because of everything that he's done. But there will be a statue. You are absolutely right. He will be more appreciated 5 years down the road whenever retirement comes than he will be in the moment.
You know what would be really cool is when they build a statue, if they have him waving to the Children's Hospital.
That'd be amazing. That'd be, especially with his big donation to that, their family's history with that. I think it'd be cool to rename Melrose.
Somebody on a Facebook page is going to hear that and then claim it as their own and take credit for it.
Which Facebook page?
It's amazing.
Which Facebook page? Okay, so I went through a quick list of my favorite wins of the Ferentz era. And I'm going to go in chronological order, starting recent to back. So I guess opposite chronological order is what the pros would say. 2021... Well, this is okay. So 2021 Penn State, the game we already referenced. Mm-hmm. Top 10 showdown in Kinnick. I was down by 14 points. That north end zone came into such play in that game. Really rattled that backup quarterback.
It ruined Taquan Roberson's career.
Absolutely. And again, that's kind of the last high water mark for this program. Iowa felt like a legitimate top 10 team at that moment. It fell apart over the next couple of weeks. They've never really gotten back to those heights. But that was an incredible day. Earlier that season, that 2021 Cyhawk game days in town. You got like the greatest Iowa State team of all time, right? Like there's so much hype. Ashton Kutcher.
Yep.
No, that was 2019.
That was 19.
2021 was Eric Church they brought in because they couldn't bring Ashton Kutcher back. He came in on that black and gold
Thank
combine.
God for Tyrese Halliburton. They got somebody that everybody knows now.
I guess.
My son went nuts because he's on WWE. He's like, that's Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
He knows him from WWE instead of the Pacers.
Sorry, really quick. Was 2021 when they had the special teams debacle on the punt?
That was 2019.
Okay, so I'm thinking okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Yep, yes. That was the Ashton Kutcher game. I don't remember the details of the 2021 game. I remember it was Brock Purdy and David Montgomery, or was it Breece Hall by then?
It was not Montgomery.
Hall.
But that was when Purdy got benched.
And it was they
when benched him in the fourth.
And Cyclone fans were leaving at the end of the third quarter. And it's some big FU to your rival to start off their greatest season of all time, which obviously it wasn't their greatest. But I mean, at that time, all the hype was on Iowa State. And that's where Kirk Ferentz shines so brightly. And to go into that stadium and just kick their ass. That was, I think, Jack Campbell hit Breece Hall on the goal line, and they ran it in for a touchdown. I mean, that was an incredible game. Back to 2017, Ohio State, woodshed, 55-24. A lot of people forget that.
That was sad Urban Meyer pizza game, right? Where he's on the golf cart? Was that where that photo's from?
Yeah, I think that's right. Nate Stanley with the guy on his legs throwing the touchdown. Josh Jackson started the game with a pick six.
That was Monty Hooker.
Oh, was it?
That was the Monty Hooker.
Josh Jackson had the one-handed one. The one-handed pick.
You're right. It was Monty Hooker on the first
play of the game, and I would never look back. That was freaking awesome. The 2010 Orange Bowl against Georgia Tech. Just the way that Iowa dismantled that Georgia Tech offense. And one of my favorite moments in my career was Kirk Ferentz's 20th season. So it would have been, 6, 7, 8 years ago. We, on the Murph and Andy show on KXNO, we got to sit down with Ferentz for about 20 minutes. And what we did, we just did this exercise with him. We named each year, and we asked him to tell us a memory he had. And his memory is incredible.
No, people don't realize that. Like, he's so sharp.
He had, he remembered little details. And his memory from that 2010 Orange Bowl season was in between the final game of the year and the Orange Bowl. And he said it was, who was the defensive coordinator? Norm Parker, yeah. He said he walked into his office with a manila envelope, and he goes, I got it. Coach, I got it. And he said he did. He had the game plan to dismantle that Georgia Tech offense, that triple option offense they had.
There was a news conference down there in Miami. Actually, we were in Fort Lauderdale at the Media Hotel, and Norm was there. And somebody asked him, because Georgia Tech, Paul Johnson, they ran that triple option, really complicated.
Yes. It was Nesbitt. They had Demarius Thomas, I think, playing wide receiver for them at that time.
And so Norm had like a can of Coke or something in front of him, and orange juice and water, and he starts taking the bottles and he starts diagramming in front of everybody how you stop it. I mean, this is like a day or two before the game. And that's my memory. Sitting there, Adrian Claiborne was the MVP of that game, and it was like, yes, that was a Norm Parker masterclass game.
And I mean, it was such a big deal to win a BCS game at that point. I mean, that was a huge, huge win.
Well, especially what they had to overcome too. I mean, obviously after the quarterback injury, I mean, there's many, and I still kind of believe it myself when I look back at that team. They could have won out had he not gotten hurt at Northwestern. And I know that's probably one of the biggest what ifs in Iowa football history.
Or had they tried to score against Ohio State that next week with James Vandenberg
making his first
playing
start
for overtime
on the road in Columbus.
Or if Trey Strauss doesn't. Anyway, we don't need to.
That's a remember some guy right there, Trey Strauss. Wow.
Two other games from that season: 7-6 against Michigan State. That final play to Marvin McNutt, because that kept them undefeated. I think they were 8-0 at that point.
So 7 got 6, right?
7 gets 6. Yep. The 2000 that Penn State game, the Claiborne block.
That was on my list. Yep.
Incredible. The 05 Capital One, Tate to Holloway. I was in the stadium at that point. My fun story about that is because I was kicking their ass in the first half.
Oh. They went through, LSU went through
amazing.
3 quarterbacks in that game.
And it was Jamarcus Russell.
Saban could not find anything until
their third quarterback, Jamarcus Russell, comes in out of nowhere and leads LSU all the way back, and they score with a minute left or whatever to win.
Matt Flynn, Jamarcus Russell, and I can't remember the third quarterback, but that was some talent.
I'm in the stadium with my dad and my brothers, and I'm pissed. LSU scores that final touchdown, and I'm like, let's go. I don't need to see this. I don't want to see them celebrate. Let's leave. I want to leave. I don't want to be here.
Plenty of people did.
Come on.
Plenty of people did.
There's 45 seconds left. We're not leaving. We drove, 28 hours to get here.
Okay.
We drove down overnight. We drove back in a freaking ice storm. My dad was like, just stay. I want to leave. And thank God I didn't leave. Thank God my dad made me stay, because Tate's a hollow. And the play before, my dad saw it. He was like, that dude was open. And then the clock is running, and the famous Dolph call. Yep. This is going to be the last play. They don't even know that.
Do you remember the key detail about that?
I don't know.
They still had 2 timeouts. Iowa had 2
timeouts.
I remember watching.
Ference's
clock management nightmare.
Has been an issue.
I remember watching that game with my dad, my parents, and my dad was holding my dog. I'm not kidding you when I say, God rest my dad's soul. I thought he was going to throw my dog through the TV because he was screaming for a timeout. He full on, almost half cocked him back.
Just in case the PETA people are watching, it didn't happen.
I don't give a shit. No, that's fine.
And then back to 2004, the Penn State 6-4. Ference's dad had passed away. Yeah. I mean, for so many reasons, that's such a Ference win. That's the score that people like to make fun of. It's such an Iowa Penn State score. It's in the Scorigami Hall of Fame. A bunch of games in
and
02.
The second safety, Iowa chose to give them the safety. It should have been 6-2. That's what makes it even crazier is Iowa gifted them 2 of the 4 points.
There were a bunch of games in 02 when I was a student there. That was great. There was some Michigan wins that should definitely be in there. But those are some of my favorite Kirk Ferentz wins.
Was the Purdue one on there from 02? That's when Brad Banks' kind of Heisman moment, right?
Yeah,
when we let him
down
the field.
That was Dallas Clark's long touchdown too, right?
Correct. Yep.
And then I used to remember the name, the defensive back. It was Shelton who had the big interception or bat down there at the end. All mine are from the early, when I was younger, and maybe that's because nostalgia is a thing. But this is more of a personal list for me, so I'll go 1999, Northern Illinois, victory number 1, student section, rushed the field.
Oh, nice.
I remember they climbing over, and LeVar Woods had the fumble return for the touchdown.
Yep.
2001 Alamo Bowl. Ference's first bowl game. Caden kicks the game-winning. That was Mike Leach, Wes Welker.
And that really felt like
Cliff Kingsbury was the quarterback for Texas Tech at that point in time.
That season, Iowa had because that was my freshman year at Iowa, and I felt Iowa should have beaten Michigan, but then didn't. And it was like, we're so close. And that Alamo Bowl, it felt like, they put this together.
It's also the 9/11 year where the Iowa State game was played at the end of the year, and both teams were playing for bowl eligibility or positioning.
Suck on that, Cyclones.
So, Iowa State got the win and then wound up, I think they lost to, Alabama in Shreveport?
Yes,
and Iowa goes to the Alamo Bowl. Two of them that I took from 2002, the Michigan game when Jamel Lewis ran for 109 yards off the bench, and it was rainy and miserable. And that was the moment where they housed Michigan in Ann Arbor. Something special was happening.
Yes.
The Minnesota game from that year too, with the goalpost coming down and the
trying to carry the goalpost out of the Metrodome.
The riot sirens going off to get people. We were sitting in the press box working after the game is over. They had a D3 football game there, an hour afterwards. They're trying to put up a new goalpost. I mean, that very few people.
Oh,
and
my
then
God.
The other one is the 2003 Iowa State game, which broke the 5-year streak. And then I'm from DeWitt. Marcus Schnorr, who was a backup running back for the Hawkeyes, scored a touchdown in that game. Just a personal favorite moment of mine, even though I missed it because we were going down the stairs to get down onto the field. So I had to watch it, and to this day I feel bad. Marcus, I didn't get to see your touchdown in person. We were going down the stairs to the field level. But those are my personal list. Your list is great as far as meaningful victories. Mine was a little bit more what they mean to me, and none of them are beyond 2003. Make of that what you will.
So I have to ask you, Andrew, because you did have a really good list, but did you have any games from 2016?
No.
Michigan?
That was incredible. So that game,
Akram Wadley's performance, and then obviously the way the game ended, Keith Duncan, true freshman, going in there.
Do you remember that? So they had just lost to Penn State, right? And put up 90 yards of offense. It was so terrible.
No, worse than that. The best offense was the 2 pick sixes that Iowa had.
That's right. Yes.
So I was covering Nebraska at the time. Here's your real poll for you, right? I was hosting a radio show, and I was we were talking about the Big Ten. I said Michigan is going to score more points than Iowa had total yards, because I'm just out of it. Anyway, so Nebraska beats Minnesota. Remember, Nebraska started 7-0 this year, right? This is the last good year. I totally believe this cursed the program. I get down there. I'm interviewing the players for my job. Shout out Sean Callahan. It's my guy. And they have the Iowa-Michigan game on TV, the ending of it. I'm interviewing the players, and I'm not kidding you. 4 or 5 different Nebraska players watching me the hell? Look how kick the shit out of Iowa. And what happened?
Yep.
And what happened?
Awesome.
But I looked at my boss, and I put it on the Nebraska message boards, which I was so new message boards, dumb idea. I flat out said, they're not beating Iowa because the attitude that they had.
Right.
It wasn't confidence. It was they were so arrogant about the entire, just the aura of Iowa. But anyway, so that was on my list.
That 2016, so that they had just gotten housed by Penn State. It was embarrassing, right?
Wasn't it Wisconsin?
Or was it Wisconsin?
It was Wisconsin, because it was the week after the Ohio State win, and then everybody's high up on Iowa, so they went from Ohio State to Wisconsin, and the only way Iowa scored was Josh Jackson's pick sixes.
Either way, I was with my wife. We were visiting her grandparents in Tucson, Arizona, over that week, and I told
shout out Wildcats.
And I told my wife, hey, your grandparents don't know I'm kind of a sports freak, right? So Iowa plays Michigan in prime time. It's a big game, but they're going to get smoked. This is a good Michigan team. It's a bad Iowa team. Let's not even mention it to them that it's happening. I don't want to watch it. I definitely don't want to be pissed off about an Iowa loss in your grandparents' living room. So we're just not going to say anything.
Did you throw a dog through the window? We want to know about that.
It.
Okay.
We get there.
It almost happened.
We get there, and my wife's grandma's like, hey, we know there's a big Iowa game. We're all set up. We got it on the team. We're ready. And I was
that's
God
marriage
damn
material.
It. I have to
put a ring.
I was man. I was pissed. I was I have to watch this. I'm going to have to sit here and watch Iowa get crushed by Michigan and act like it's not tearing me apart, even though I know it will. And then I'm sitting there, and it's wait a minute. Is this happening? This is happening.
I hate to bring this back to reality and the current. But we're talking about all these great years and all these games where you think Iowa's going to get blown out and they win these games. Do you have, in 2025, do you have the faith if Iowa goes up against a top 15 team, top 10 team, that they would win the game. I think that faith is gone now.
It is gone, but here's where my Kobe analogy comes full circle.
All right.
Most non-Kobe fans don't remember his final game as a Laker in a season where they weren't going to the playoffs. There was nothing to play for. Kobe scored 60 points in his final game. It was an incredible night. It was so much fun. My brother and I, who are Lakers fans, are texting each other and calling each other. I mean, it was amazing. And that memory, the memory of that game, far outweighs the memory of like the 3 seasons leading up to it where the Lakers weren't very good and Kobe was a shell of himself. We got that one final moment, that one great moment. And my hope is, beyond all hope, is that Ferentz has that one more game. And whether that's this year against Oregon or Penn State or next year against whoever the hell, I do, beyond all reason, have faith that Ferentz has one more of those games
What
left
if it's
in him.
tomorrow against UMass?
God help our message board.
Yes, that's
Do we have? Is Hassel still watching? I want Don Hassel's top 5, top 10 Kirk Ferentz wins.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I will say, there's a couple more really quick.
We're going to get a lot more of this in the next
Tyler
week, right?
Sash taking the lateral from Micah Hyde.
The ping pong,
Against Michigan State. I mean, that's just an iconic play, especially when Tyler's lifted up after everything happens. I put KF winning his first Big Ten game against Michigan State. That's got to be up there. Parker Hesse's pick 6 against Tommy Armstrong really, I think, solidified that 12-0 season.
That was
that
awesome.
they had in that game. And then I also put, again, I just put together in like 90 seconds as you guys were talking, Joel Stave's fumble at the 1-yard line against Wisconsin.
That was
goal line fumble.
This is the difference between old guys like me and David. I've got mine written on a piece of paper, and he's got his phone in front of him.
He's Todd Brommelkamp. He's David Eichhold.
He thinks on his
Andrew
feet, I need
Downs.
20 hours of research just to do a 3-minute segment.
Thank you so much to Buffalo Wild Wings. We're here in Cedar Rapids. We'll be back again here later this fall. Hawks on Tap's going to take a couple of weeks off, but then David and I will be in West Des Moines in a few weeks before that Wisconsin game, previewing that, and we appreciate that. Bud Light, $4 Bud Lights at all the Buffalo Wild Wings, and come out and do the football toss because you have a chance for Bud Light to send you to the Super Bowl. We've had a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate
I'm just glad you were
it.
here this time.
Yeah, exactly. I actually made it. And yeah, we've had a lot of fun, guys.
We didn't break down UMass.
Oh, shoot. Well, we'll do that off air.
Oh, it's called they could go on Melrose for 3 hours and still beat UMass by about 4 touchdowns.
I hope so.
Otherwise, we're going to have a whole different conversation when you and I talk next.
Yes, it is. All right, thank you so much. We appreciate you. This is Iowa Everywhere. Check this out on our feed everywhere you get podcasts. Tomorrow night, late night, Chris Hassel and I will be live on Instant Iowa. I heard Hassel say on 2 Guys he hopes we go live about 10 minutes left in the game because it's that out of hand. We just go live whenever we decide to go live in that
When
show.
did you guys go live against Iowa State?
We waited till the end of that game. Right, I guess we were live when Rocco Beck took the knee.
Okay.
Yeah, so we waited until the final.
I know if you were
pass.
on during like camaraderie or everything.
No, but no, thank God we weren't because I was in a bad spot at that point. Last year against Ohio State, we went live with like 10 minutes left in the 4th quarter because it was just a blowout. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see when we go live, but follow us here on Iowa Everywhere. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely.
Go Hawks.